I didn't even know about these. So again, it wasn't the Māori Party doing this, but whoever organised these protests did pretty bloody well, pretty bloody quickly, because protests in and around the country, and a big one in Wellington, are protesting against the government, getting rid of the smoke-free next generation, smoke-free 2025 legislation.
Protests were held in Wellington and Auckland today against the government's plan to roll back smoke-free laws, and a new survey has revealed just how unpopular the move is. The poll, commissioned by Health Coalition Aotearoa, shows 67% of Kiwis.
So 2 out of 3 people like it, and we know that the government's been telling us for the last couple of weeks that the reason they're making these changes is because what they've been voted in for. So obviously, the country wants them to keep the smoke-free legislation. So, Chewy, I assume that means that they're just going to reverse their reversal tomorrow. Is that probably the case? Would you think that's going to happen? Maybe?
For John Key, I'd say yes. That seems to be just stuck. He's in the pipeline.
There you go, but there's the numbers.
Is either strongly support or support keeping the smoke-free laws, while just 21% are opposed. Looking at the 3 measures going on the scrap heap, reducing the amount of nicotine in cigarettes is the most popular. 77% want to keep it, while 16% oppose it. 68% support reducing the number of retailers allowed to sell tobacco, while 22% oppose. And 65% support creating a smoke-free generation, with 25% opposed. But
I mean, what else in this country could you get 2 out of 3 New Zealanders to support? Like, honestly, think about all the legislation, all the polls, all the ideas. What else have we seen of recent times where 2 out of 3, where the nearly 70 people out of 100, 7 people out of 10 would go, yep, that's what we want? It's like nothing. It's like nothing. Yet this is what it is for this legislation that this so-called populist government has decided to get rid of.
Government is determined to push on with their plans. Here's our political reporter, Amelia Wade.
Storming the streets in disgust.
They say they're a government that will be good for Māori and good for Pacifica, and they will help the poor. Well, I call bullshit to that.
And a petition with the names of almost 50,000 Kiwis was handed over in the capital.
The plan is let people die. We want the money so we can get tax cuts to our rich mates. That's the plan.
Why are you rolling back something so popular?
Well, we're not. We're staying with the status quo.
Even within...
Speaking of cowardly, how cowardly is that? How cowardly is that? We're not rolling it back. We're sticking with the status quo. In fact, they're trying to sell the idea that they're not rolling back legislation because the legislation hasn't been enacted yet. Like, honestly, that you talk about mumble mouth, you talk about thin lips, you talk complete weasel words, because they are rolling back legislation, or else they wouldn't be repealing anything. But to kind of, I just don't know how someone looks into a camera and says, we're not, this is the water is dry moment. This is literally a water is dry moment. It's unfathomable.
Even within coalition voters, there's massive support for the smoke-free laws. 80% of National and 72% of both ACT and New Zealand First voters want to see lower nicotine levels.
This is the result of a dirty deal done in a back room.
And in my view, it's time for the government to let people start making their own choices and not have 5 million people living in a nanny state.
So, of course, it's going to be pee and meth and cannabis.
Oh, that's logically true, right?
That's because we're not going to live in a nanny state, and we're going to allow 5 million people to do what they want with their bodies, right? That's very good, Shane. So, and to his credit, he voted yes in the cannabis referendum because that's what he thinks. But I think that if he's going to be this outspoken about smoking, then he should be this outspoken about all the other things as well that we've got a nanny state for. And maybe we'll start with cannabis.
Yeah, but he's not getting big cannabis money.
Well, maybe he will. Maybe he will. Maybe he will.
The laws about to be stuffed out would have had a major impact on smoking rates. Looking at the modelling for Waihingi.
Now, look, I'm sorry to interrupt this, but this is terrifying, Chewy. Right? So this line that you see now, that's the current trajectory. Right? They'll explain it. That's the current trajectory. Well, and as they're right, that it is trending down, but you wait till they show you what the smoke-free would have done.
Māori, who are the most prevalent smokers, business as usual wouldn't see them meet the smoke-free goal of less than 5% smoking until after 2060. But with the combined measures of reduced nicotine drastically...
Is it just me, or does it look slightly different?
Jesus.
Like, is it just me? And this gap between 2030 and 2060, that is a $10 billion hole in New Zealand's economy.
I also let's talk about Rimmer's argument there about choice, right? There's two things that spring out to mind, right? From that survey, like 2/3 of people have made their choice and they're good with it. But then if they roll ahead with this, smokers still have a choice. They continue to smoke, sure, but there's less and less nicotine there.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're making a choice that, hey, look, the payoff, well, A, what I'm paying for this, B, the kick that I'm getting out of it is not, they're not balanced out. So I'm making the choice to stop. And because there's less nicotine in there, it's easier for me to do. Like, there's still a choice there. It's not the nanny state. The nanny state hasn't swooped in and banned everything, but it's just the trajectory that things have been on for decades, and both sides agreed to it.
And
remember, they chuck it away.
Remember, they said 2040, which I guess would be about here. By 2040, it would save 8,000 lives, right? So what can we do? 16, 24, 25, 20,000 plus lives in that whole chart probably that we could save. So actually the 5 billion they're talking about might be more like 15 billion based on this chart. Maybe it's more of a $30 billion hole up to 2060, because maybe the $10 billion hole was only talking to 2040. Anywho, let's keep going on with this good news story.
Generation, the smoking rate would drop to 3.3% in 3 years.
It's a dying shame that this government thinks that they can do this to us.
And with its plans to quickly stub out the smoke-free laws, the coalition could be riding roughshod over to Tiriti. In New South's been told that some Inter-iwi Māori are considering taking legal action against the government in the Waitangi Tribunal.
I would describe that, frankly, as race fanaticism. It's an obsession that our country has taken to a ridiculous extreme.
The health advice for the laws is explicit. It says the right to be smoke-free is entrenched in Te Tiriti or Waitangi. Specifically, Article 2 guarantees protection of taonga, and the right to well-being falls under this. And Article 3 sets out the right to equity before the law.
Do you believe that there is an obligation, the Crown has an obligation to protect Māori health under the treaty?
The government has an obligation to improve outcomes for all New Zealanders, Māori and non-Māori.
And
so why are you allowing smoking to go on at all then? If you've just, I mean, he's played his little race baiting card there by only answering, making everyone the same. But making everyone the same, you're still not doing that. Making everybody the same, you're giving them worse outcomes by not getting rid of cigarettes. So even though you have done your little lip service to your supporters by saying, "Oh, we're all equal," you're still actually wrong in your answer, because we're all equal, and more of us being equal are going to die a worse outcome because of these cigarettes sticking around.
Improve outcomes for all New Zealanders, Māori and non-Māori.
And both Māori and non-Māori turned out today fuming at the coalition's plans to turn the smoke-free laws to ash. Amelia Wade, News Hub.
So there you go, Chewy. A couple of really interesting things here, especially based on our conversation, or my conversation with Moana Tūwhare about what happened in Ngāpuhi the other day, is the idea about challenging it with the treaty. Māori have a right.
Absolutely.
And it'll be really interesting to see what they can do from there. It's so interesting to see in this 3-year term, if it lasts 3 years, that what they're saying they're trying to do, I don't believe they're trying to do this, but they're saying they're trying to do is get rid of division and make all of us the same. And they'll probably find that what they're going to end up with is the most divisive time in New Zealand since 1981, and a time where Māori maybe make more strident leaps forward in the courts thanks to them than ever before, perhaps, because once the courts say it, then what?
Right. Again, it's the theme. You got to point it out where you see it. Luxon wants to say the nice fluffy thing. We want equal outcomes for everyone. Well, that's cool. So what does that mean, man? What does that mean? If you're talking about equal outcomes, let's talk about Māori having a similar life expectation to non-Māori.
Yep.
Is that the equal outcome that you're talking about? How do we get there? Does that mean that we target things to help Māori get it? No, that's not what you mean.
Freedom, liberty, freedom.
You mean you're going to ignore everything that points at the fact that Māori have worse health outcomes. They have a worse experience when they go into public health sector. They just don't get across the same finish line as a lot of them. The inequality that's built into the fact that they could be working and paying tax and then never get the benefit of retirement. Like, does that sound fair?
Yeah, 100%. So,
is it not? Māori didn't have tobacco until Europeans arrived. So, I mean, you could even make that argument there. That again, that is a responsibility of colonization that we introduced that. So maybe we should do something about it. And maybe the benefit is there that we know smoking is bad. We know the tobacco industry has lied for us for decades. They concealed the research. They knew what it was doing to people. They hid it. They lied. They lobbied. They paid off. You know, maybe we shouldn't jump to the support of big tobacco. Maybe we should tell them to go fuck themselves. And maybe we should go and we see right through you on vaping.